Hello, friends. I speak to you now from a prepared script, a performance written as a letter to you. The images shared here are from the visual journals. Pardon me for a second while I present these to you all. Are from the visual journals of my former middle school students. In sharing them with you, I hope to honor who they were and are. As companion to these artworks, I would like to propose an imagined conception of teaching as a form of constant assemblage. The imagined teacher is a continually morphing and changing conceptual artist. These visual journal images act as a context for how we educators may and can practice inclusive art education. This inclusivity is a challenge to the status quo and can seem daunting. I want to see this as an opportunity to build your artistic practice as conceptual art rather than adding another task to the long list of demands on teachers. This platform helps by removing curricular impediments as it acts to make space for differentiation and presents educational goals to engage and support all learners. I propose that these two concepts that are often thought of as disparate, the physically situated art practice in a studio and the conceptual art practice called post-studio, can be merged to the utilization of the visual journal. Let the visual journal be an interacting reflection of teaching in form and function. Here, this tool allows for each member of the classroom and the art itself as non-human, while also speculatively becoming a carrier bag of the multimodal inclusive possibilities. A post-structuralist method, as Wagner said, I do not sense a need to refuse one to embrace the other. Rather, I sense an engagement in both. Here, Wagner is discussing feminist and phenomenological theories, but these can be applied to studio and post-studio practice as well. The two do not need to be opposed like Wagner proposed. The two can engage with each other inside the visual journal. By utilizing the visual journal as a collaborative conceptual art and teaching practice, educators will have the advantage of a larger toolbox to draw upon to increase student engagement through differentiation. Approaches to differentiation have classically been developed to sustain students with disabilities. Once these skills are within the conceptual framework for an educator, they can provide a multiplicity of teaching methods within the classroom. Alongside a choice-based model, the visual journal can give each student a place to express their knowledge differently. I advocate that these educators create the opportunity for students to find the means that best fit themselves. Teaching through virtual platforms due to the COVID-19 pandemic is challenging, and developing relationships with students can consume most of your time. The visual journal can be an excellent means to build these relationships through differentiation over time. To better understand your students, review IEPs and 504s alongside a special ed teacher, counselor, social worker, or curriculum specialist.
Sam.
Educators must learn about their students' needs and understand their history as artists. Would research any other aspect of their practice.
Sam, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
We're not seeing your slides if you're trying to show us some.
Oh no!
Go to, you know how to do it?
Oh no. Yeah, oh, here we go. Share screen. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jorge. I apologize to everybody.
Thank you. It was Catalina who caught it, actually.
Okay, thank you, Catalina. I really appreciate that. I hope everybody's seeing it now.
We can see them now.
Awesome. Okay, back into it. Educators must learn about their students' needs and understand their history as artists would research any other aspect of their practice. As educators, we must look beyond this as a legal requirement and instead conceive of it as part of their story. We were trying to help to build students flourish as artists through your class. Inclusion shouldn't merely be about a focus on students' abilities as a way towards removing stigmas about disabilities. It should also involve advocacy for traditionally marginalized individuals, such as LGBTQIA+, Black, Indigenous, and people of color within the classroom, to provide spaces for success and access. What you ask the class to do rather than what they are prohibited from doing is essential in making inclusivity actionable. Making a commitment to being anti-racist and consistently investigating your own biases is critical, but how do you practice that in each interaction you have with students? As an educator, you can utilize the visual journal as conceptual art, performance, and practice to model for students how to work through themes of inclusivity, acceptance, anti-racism, and self-acceptance. This can be done by modeling not only what is in the visual journal, but its curricular deployment in the classroom. The visual journal's agency for students seeks to provide a safe space for them to express themselves, working without preconceived cultural norms or expectations, thus allowing themselves to create free of societal or self-judgment. The visual journal will enable students to take up their conceptual art practice because the personal narrative and voice made within this book aren't defined by the curriculum where barriers may exist for the unencumbered imagination. The challenge within a choice-based classroom is that you are solely releasing kids' responsibility through them making their content. This agency's release depends on each educator's skill set, temperament, or intuition about when to let a child take the reins or if the student needs more support. Knowing where a self-reflection moment is versus when a technique needs more practice. There isn't a recipe. It's only learning through the experience of teaching in real time that it can allow for it. Facing the struggle of what a compelling resource the visual journal can be, that some students will be apathetic about it, keeps the energy on the rich and robust content made possible by the visual diary, despite the indifferent students' lack of engagement. With inclusive education and anti-racist positioning, making our physical or virtual space safe is crucial. Support and advocate for students and yourself. Hang posters on your wall that say, gay rights are human rights, Black lives matter, etc. Show that you are in it and you are part of it. Be the model for empathy, compassion, self-awareness, and self-reflection, and sharing that you are asking from them in their work. Make your classroom, whether digital or physical, a three-dimensional representation of your visual journal, reflecting who you are for the students to see and feel safe. Engagement needs to be meaningful, and at some point, students need to take a chance. But it needs to be their decision and not merely because you asked them to. Conceptually, how can students create work within your class and provide a safety net for making their work? Call it a blueprint for behavior management, a guide on the side, or a set of rules. I know that's what the creator of these rules did, Sister Coretta Kent, and sometimes a tribute to John Cage. I often reference these rules when I felt stuck as an artist, educator, researcher, and handed them out to students as a constant reminder. And I'm going to recite them here for you. 10 rules for students and teachers. Rule 1, find a place you trust, and then try trusting it for a while. Rule 2, general duties of a student, pull everything out of your teacher, pull everything out of your fellow students. Rule 3, general duties as a teacher, pull everything out of your students. Rule 4, consider everything an experiment. Rule 5, be self-disciplined. This means finding someone wise or smart, and choosing to follow them. To be disciplined is to follow in a good way. To be self-disciplined is to follow in a better way. Rule 6, nothing is a mistake. There is no win and no fail, there's only make. Rule 7, the only rule is work. If you work, it will lead to something. It is the people who do all the work all the time who eventually catch on to things. Rule 8, do not try to create and analyze at the same time. They're different processes. Be happy whenever you can manage it is Rule 9. Enjoy yourself. It's lighter than you think. Rule 10, we are breaking all the rules, even our own rules. And how do we do that? By leaving plenty of room for X qualities. It's a direct quote to Coretta Kent. Helpful hints, always be around, come or go to everything, always go to classes, read everything you can get your hands on, look at movies carefully and often, save everything, it may come in handy later. Here, my friends, I'd like to end where we began, imagining teaching and learning as an assemblage, pliable and capable of the changes we propose or we make within it. Teaching and learning is an amorphous cloud that changes as much by our thoughts as it is by our actions. Not the rules set upon us as change or restrictions, but rather freeing openness because of the creative opportunities it provides. And opening up, this space of uncertainty needs embracing. It calls for a hug. Breathe in your imagination. Breathe out in the calm necessary to stay steady amongst your sense excitement of the coming journey and its potential joy. Both the visual journal and choice-based art education live in this space, but once adopted can provide room for the osmosis between intellect and intuition. I end here with a quote from poet Rainer Maria Rilke in Letters to a Young Poet. I want to beg you, as much as I can, to be patient toward all the unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms. and like books that are written in a foreign language. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. Thank you. That's it.